y'all, what's up? This is a solo episode of Dilly and the Boys. Um, I originally wasn't gonna put anything out today, only because we're kind of dealing with just personal life issues, right? Like this thing is very tedious for us to do. Not to mention we have to schedule stuff, like schedule people to show up, schedule people to come over, and it deals with everybody's schedule and like time constraints and so on and so forth, right? Uh anyways, I don't want to get too much into that. Originally, we were going to make the announcement that we're going to take about a week off and just kind of handle our business as such. I think sometimes whenever you're dealing with social media or you're dealing with some other stuff, you just kind of need that relaxation. And me specifically, I'm not a very like social media minded person. Like I'll get on and I'll connect with some friends, or like Snapchatty Kathy, and just Facebook, kind of just see how things are going. But I'm not the posting type. I'm not the sharing type. I'm not. I really don't dabble in it too much. Um. Anyways, I don't want to keep y'all too much. I just figured, I thought I would bring y'all kind of like a bonus episode, right? Like, I feel like I got some stories. Sometimes I got to remind myself, like, dude, I used to do some kind of crazy stuff and like fun stuff. And sorry, mom. Sorry, you know, family. It is what it is. Like, y'all might, if y'all don't like what you're hearing, just turn it off. So I figured I'd go ahead and tell some stories because I genuinely don't think, at least with the way that the podcast is set up at the moment, right? I don't think it's set up for me to ever really tell these stories. And I think a lot of my friends tell these, I'm a pretty wide open book. Like, and you start drinking, you start having a good time, and XYZ. And sometimes they just kind of slip out, right? I don't necessarily get the chance to do that on the podcast because it's normally a conversation and it's normally talking about subjects that are going on in the world and stuff like that. And as y'all can tell, I'm fresh out of work, right? Like my hat's dirty, I'm dirty. Um. So yeah, let's hop right in, man. I don't want to spend too much time talking. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. I don't know how long this episode's gonna be. I guess it depends. I'm just gonna go off until I'm tired, huh? We'll see. Um. So I figured the first story, because this is usually a conversation. Like these are questions that people want to ask. Now I don't know how many people watch this that actually know me, or people who watch this that kind of know me, or the people who watch this that have had sex with me, or the people that wanted to have sex with me, or the people who fucking hate me. Like I really, I really don't know. um, but anyways, I figured one of the funnest, most fun stories is how I lost my virginity. Right. So let's go ahead and hop into this. All right. So let me get my thoughts together because I really haven't thought about this story in a pretty long time. Okay, so this is shit. I moved to San Antonio. I moved to San Antonio probably my freshman year of high school, right? I think it was my second semester. I had went to like 5 different high schools my freshman year cuz just family life. My mom was doing some military stuff, and then we had guardian, and it just didn't work out. Whatever. Woe is me. I'm not going to get into the specifics of all of that. That's for another time. Well, anyways, I just moved here, right? So I didn't really know anybody, and at the time, MySpace was a big deal, right? So I'm getting on MySpace, and you know how that goes. Same thing as everybody else does on like Facebook or whatever else. You're just going through and you're trying to find these females, or you're trying to find people or whatever, and you're just trying to kind of throw messages out, right? That was our first glimpse of social media. Like we really didn't know what it was. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just a chance for us to talk to people that maybe didn't go to school with us or whatever. Had Tom in my top 8. That might go above some of these young bucks' head. Anyway, so I'd met this girl, right? And we'd been messaging back and forth on MySpace, and I was new to the area, so I was like, oh, cool, whatever. Well, anyways, like, you're teenagers, and you start saying, what's up? Like, and it's not necessarily what's up, it's wanna fuck. Well, you're 14, 15 years old, and, this isn't to gloat about how early or how late you know what I'm saying? This is not any of that, because it was definitely one of those scenarios that I think you put most irresponsible, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think it was a very ideal situation, right? To lose the virginity in and I used to move my life almost choreographically, like, what could bring a good story, right? Like, I used to do that a lot. Well, so anyways, I'd spent a lot of time going over the backstory of MySpace. Well, so anyways, me and her messaging around, and we kind of realized, like, hey, man, we kind of like each other. Like, you're cool, I'm cool. We get along. You're attractive. You think I'm attractive. Now, at the time, I was playing football, and I was a little more in shape. Now I'm closer to in actual shape. Haha. So, we're messaging around and stuff like that. Well, this girl, she got into a big fight. I wouldn't even say a fight, like an argument with her dad, right? Well, so she hits me up and she's like, can you come get me? And there had already been conversations about, doing a hucklebuck. Right? Well, I didn't have my license. So, now, I don't know how much of this story my mom knows and my sisters know. But anyways, it is what it is. It's an open forum. I borrowed her car. Because whenever I was at the other high schools, like, I would be able to drive it sometimes and to and from, whatever. And I knew what time my mom had to wake up, and I knew what time XYZ. So anyways, I borrowed her car, right? Well, funny thing about that, I don't know San Antonio. And this is MySpace days. This isn't when all the phones had, like, the most up-to-date maps. And I don't really know, right? So if I recall, like, I'm in my mom's Buick Rendezvous, which if any of y'all, you know what? I'll post a picture at this moment, like, right there. I will show you what a Buick Rendezvous was. Not an attractive car. Wasn't fast. Not, like, at the time, we were super gung-ho about it because, we were relatively low income most of our lives. So this was a nice vehicle for us, right? Well, so anyways, I borrowed my mom's, and I said I'm not going to fuck in the backseat of my mom's car. Like, that's disgusting. Like, who needs it? First of all, I'm a big dude. Like, I'm not going to be doing all that. Well, there's a place in the San Antonio area. It's called Stone Oak. Well, Stone Oak, in today's day and age, is very grown up, and it's built, there's a bunch of houses and neighborhoods built around it, right? Well, back then, there was none of that shit. Like, it was one of those places that you would drive to, and there's still trees, and there's still, well, I guess there's still deer, but there's, like, wildlife out there, and you, like, have to have your brights on, and it's kind of one of those deals. Well, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not from the area. So I remember thinking to myself, and this girl's address is on a GPS, like a Garmin. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have no idea where I'm going, y'all. And anyways, I get to where the GPS is telling me, and there's this long driveway, right? And so I text her. I said, hey, I think I'm here. Like, I'm not sure. Well, I'm fully, like, thinking of, like, I might be like, what am I doing? Like, this is sketchy. There is a house and there is a driveway. And I think there's a girl, right? Like, but I had never met her because I had met her on social media and XYZ. So I see her walking out, and my first thought was like, all right, cool. She's a female. You know what I'm saying? She's she is the person that's in the photos. She is, yeah, like that's a victory because I'm sitting there like, all right, cool. Like I don't have to peel off. I don't have to because it's also super dark. So like you really don't get a good view of what's going on, right? You don't get a good view of the person that's about to get in your car. So that was just a moral victory right there, right? Well, as I said, that whole area started building up, right? So there was a lot of houses that were like half built that were like the same as this house. Like they had a long driveway, they had their own lot, acre or two, so on and so forth. So we said, hey man, we'll just go chill. We'll pull around the back of a house that has like a wraparound driveway that goes to the back of the house. Nobody will know where we're at, and we'll just have a good time, right? So anyways, that's where everything kind of starts going down, right? So like, as I'd previously stated, we had basically discussed having relations. So we do all this, and I had like a blanket and like all this other stuff. Like I said, I wasn't going to do it in the backseat of my mama's car. That's disgusting. Honestly, I already felt guilty enough because I borrowed the car, and I'm sure if she finds, she's probably going to say I stole it, which isn't. I didn't steal it, right? I brought it back in the same condition as I borrowed it. Well, so anyways, we're hanging out. It's about 4 or 5 in the morning. We're done with whatever we're doing. She's like, I got to get home. And I'm like, yeah, I do too, because my mom has got to be awake. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's got to be awake. She's got to go to work. Well, I go to drop her off, and headlights of a Chevy Cavalier they're like right in the middle of the driveway, and they start shining right on us as she's getting out of the vehicle. She's like, that's my dad. Fucking go. Right? So anyways, now let me reiterate a point. I don't know San Antonio, much less Stone Oak. And at that time, it's a series of back roads that only connected to like what's considered a super road that has a bunch of lights but is actually kind of like a highway, right? Well, I handed her the Garmin and I said, here's my address, type it in. I don't know where I'm going. Figure it out. Like, because we got to get out of here. Like, this dude is chasing us. Like, he's chasing us. When I'm telling you he's chasing us, we're flying 40, 50 miles an hour through these turns and these back roads, and like it's pitch black outside. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what's going on. I barely know how to drive, y'all. Like I know that probably doesn't sound that bad, but like I barely knew how to drive. Well, so anyways, we end up in like a U-turn. So I like flip it around and I start driving. He comes flying straight towards us, and I go off the road, and I get around him. Well, because he did that, I'm able to get away, right? Like, because he's got to turn around, and by then, I'm already, like, off. We finally make it to the highway, and, we're sitting there talking, and we're like, well, what are we going to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't come home with me. Like, my mom will fucking kill you. Like, what? Like, I'm probably already going to get murdered if she finds out what is going on here. At this very moment, we are very much talking about I could die. You feel me? Like, it's that big of a deal. So, we lived in these apartments, and they have, like, a community center where, like, if you had a card, then you could go in. It was like 24 hours. They had a basketball. Now, obviously, this was my mom was military, so we were allowed certain housing, and at the time it was now that I'm looking back on it, like it was a relatively nice apartment complex. So we had this community center that was open 24 hours a day. Well, I'm like, well, we can't go to my house. Like, that's just not going to happen. Sorry. So, anyways, we decided, let's go to the community center till about 8 or 9 a.m. She's going to be up. It was already 5 or 6 a.m. by the time we made it there, right? And we were just going to just stay up and do whatever. Well, anyways, it got to about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm falling asleep, right? I'm falling asleep, and I'm not going to get into everything else that happened, like, at that very moment. But anyway, I'll just say there's cameras. And we didn't know about it because we were young. We ain't going all the way. I'm just saying some shit got embarrassing pretty fucking quick. Well, we decide to go back up to the apartment, right? And it's about 8 o'clock in the morning. And I'm tired and whatever. We'd kind of been... A lot of stuff has happened that night. My mom is still asleep. So at 8:30, she decides to wake up. And she comes out of the room. And me and this girl are just sitting on the couch, right? And she stone cold looks at me in my face and said, "Who the fuck is this bitch?" Right? Like, who is this girl on my couch at 8:30 in the morning? Like, I've never met her. I don't know her. Didn't even know you were talking to anybody. Like, what is going on? I just woke up. What is happening here? So anyways, like, we go through the whole, I didn't tell her the whole story, but I basically just said, oh yeah, this, she lives so-and-so, and she came over, and, like, she just got here. Like, I figured you were already going to be, basically, I just said, hey, I thought you were already going to be up. I invited her over here. We're hanging out, whatever. And, yeah, so she stayed with us for basically the whole day, and we ruled it as we're just hanging out. Till the end of the night, her dad is blowing her phone up all day, just going. And finally, like, my mom had noticed, and she's like, what's going on? Right? And so finally, I'd kind of told her, I said, hey, man, I forgot exactly how I worded it, but basically my mom was like, you got to take her home. Like, you got to take her home. So anyway, she didn't want to go back to her mom's house or her parents' house. So she decided, hey, drop me off at my sister's, right? Well, her sister kind of had like a little miscreant boyfriend anyway. So I guess that made some stuff a little bit better. I don't really think it did. So we drop her off, and then just shit gets completely awkward, right? Well, anyways, so that's basically that story of how I lost my, like, all of that is taking place within probably a 12-hour sample size, maybe 18 hours once I, like, took her home. So that was, luckily me and her did date for about 7-8 months, and, at the end of it, the guy who chased me, he ended up being really upset because it didn't work out. So, what you gonna do? But I feel, got chased by a girl's dad the first time I ever, you know what I'm saying? So, kids, don't sneak out unless you know how to drive a little bit. Learn from me. Let me see. So, the next story, right, is this is from a little bit of my more, like, rebel. Honestly, it was one of those things where, like, I didn't have a lot of guidance, like, in my teenage years, so it was kind of just like, hey, we thought we could get away with, honestly, probably anything. You know what I'm saying? Aside from, like, murder. Like, you could probably get away with almost, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just kind of have this, like, invincibility thing. Like, you're young, you're vibrant, like, you're moving through life, and you don't have people getting on to you, so you're just like, hey, this'll do. This'll work. Well, so I remember one night we get a call from one of our friends. And now, in hindsight, I really don't know what the actual, like, party was supposed to be, because we never made it. Little foreshadowing. Whoop, whoop. But it was like an underwear party or something like that, which is weird because we were in high school. So, like, I don't fully remember the context of the underwear party, right? Like, what you know, why were we in high school having an underwear party? I legitimately don't. I guess maybe the parents were. I really don't know. Well, me and my buddy, we were like, you know what? Let's go steal some. Let's go steal some shit for this party. Like, let's do whatever. So we go to J.C. Penney's. It's either J.C. Penney's or Macy's, right? Well, like I said, we're young and we're not very thoughtful. Like, we're not going over how can we be sneaky? How can we do this and how can we be conniving? Like, how can we get through this and not get caught? I don't think that thought really crossed our mind. I think we're like, these employees don't give a fuck about their job, bro. Like, you think they're going to notice? Like, they're not paying attention to us. Well, we never knew that there's, like, obviously cameras and people are watching the cameras and there's literally a whole job of that, right? Well, so at the time, so we had walked out of the complete store and we're walking, and out of nowhere, these three grown men. Now, remember, we're like teenagers. We're like 17, 18 years old, like borderline. And they just grab us and like put us in these like holds, and at the same time we're like, what the fuck? Like, what is going on? What is happening? Right? And before we even knew like we could fight back or like do anything like that, like, because they snuck up behind us, like we barely heard them, and next thing you know, they're grabbing us. Well, so my buddy, he didn't. So there's a rule, I guess, and I don't know if this is just in Texas or whatever. I think it's anything $50 or more is a misdemeanor theft and so on and so forth. Then it gets worse based off of value, and then felonies, whatever. Well, because it was $50, they said that I stole $50 worth of stuff, right? Which till this day, I don't know if that was the case. I really couldn't tell you. Well, I get arrested. You know what I'm saying? I get arrested. I get put in handcuffs. I'm going to jail. Well, at the time, I'm driving it was like a 2002, 2003 BMW 325i, and it was a manual car. Well, my buddy, he had only taken, allegedly, $20 or $30 worth of stuff, so they technically couldn't take him in. They could write him a ticket, but they couldn't take him in. So I gave him my keys and I gave him my cell phone, and I said, I'm going to call you when I'm out, like, from the jail, and tell you what's going on. Well, this was on like a Friday night. I don't know how many people are very familiar with jails. They don't got fucking people working. So you're in, so you get arrested, and this is all kind of just like new. Like, I've had several run-ins with the cops where I get like thrown on the ground, or like a gun pointed in my face, or like taser, or just whatever, threatened, called a dumbass, so on and so forth. But I'd never actually been like put in handcuffs and driven to I don't know if it's everywhere, but down here it's basically you go downtown and you go to the magistrate, and then that's basically where you go, where they decide you're either going, like, basically where you're going to go after the fact, or if you're going to get out, and if you're going to be bailed, so on and so forth. Well, so I go there, and like I said, I have no experience. So they basically do the whole entire walkthrough. Like, you have to give them everything. And at the end of it, dude, you're just sitting in this fucking cell that has like they're not really glass. They're like these see-through plastic, they're like these plastic windows, right? So you can see all of the office people working. Like, I guess the cops or like the dispatchers, whoever. Like, you can see them all in there just chilling and talking and just doing whatever. Well, I'm in this cell with like 5 or 6 other people, right? Well, there's some people in and out. And wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It really wasn't. Honestly, some interesting people, right? We'll get to those people. I met a dude who's very good at making ice, like the drug. That's pretty cool. He got arrested for. Let's not get into why people were arrested. Well, anyways, he was pretty cool. There's a dude who looked like one of the Yin Yang twins. He started like freestyle rapping, so we're just in there having a good time. He's sitting there rapping. We're having a great time. Um, yeah, there was just some people that, and in all honesty, like, what are you gonna do? Like, you're in this cold jail cell or like this holding cell, and you're with these like 5, 6 other dudes, and now you can see all the way across, and there was one like holding cell where there was just this guy, and I remember at this point all of us were kind of having our own good time. Like we were kind of just all, because in all honesty, man, some of this was these guys second, third, whatever strikes. So they knew like some people are probably going to jail. You know what I'm saying? Like they have an idea of kind of what the situation is. So that's probably the most lighthearted that they're going to be, because at that point, then you're talking court, then you're talking about, what you're actually going to get. Well, about two or three cells down, there's this, I don't know if he was homeless or if he was on drugs or whatever. He was in a leopard printed onesie, right? And he was the only one in there. So he probably was on drugs, or maybe he was intoxicated, and that was like their version of them just letting him sober up. He pisses all over himself. Like, we're all in the cell, which was weird, because, like, if you got to take a shit, you're taking a shit right in front of everybody. Like, you got to take a piss, everybody's seeing your dick. Like, it is, you know what I'm saying? You just got to get over that. And then, obviously, like, the food. It's literally, like, fucking one slice of, it ain't worth shit. Like, it's like a bologna, and everything is, like, it's not good. And then you got lights on you constantly. So then, like, you'll run into a lot of guys where they're just, like, sleeping underneath, like, the bench, which I ended up doing for, like, the last 4 hours. I tried staying up the whole time. But anyways, all of us are just having a good time, and we just hear this, like, dripping noise. Like, we're like, what is this noise? You know what I'm saying? This dude is pissing. He pissed for, like, a solid 2 or 3 minutes. Just all over himself. He's just knocked out. He's just laying on this bench, and he's just knocked out. And it was just, we're all like, what the fuck, dude? What is going on? Like, this is crazy. So right after that, this one guy comes in, right? And I know why you know what I'm saying? I know why he was I'll tell you the cool parts of the reason why he was there wasn't necessarily 100% cool. But anyways, him and his girl had got arrested together. Well, the girl kept saying, like, fuck you to the cop, like, flipping him off and da-da-da-da-da. Well, so, depending on the cop, right, and now I don't know about how it is now, but at least back then, depending on the car you're in, they don't have, like, the place for your hands to go if they're behind your back, right? Because then you're just sliding, or you'll fall over, or whatever, like. So they'll move your handcuffs, like, to the front, and you'll just be sitting there with your hands in, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like up to the police officer, I guess. Well, in this case, this happened, right? She starts sucking his dick in the back seat of this cop car, right? So they're driving, he has to pull over, and the guy that's getting his dick sucked literally was like, and all of this is confirmed by the cop, because the cop is mad. Like, the cop comes in and tells the guy, get the F in the cell, shut the H up, all of this, you think you're clever, you think you're funny, da-da-da-da, like, all of this stuff is going down, right? And so he's just sitting there like, oh, he's just mad because he ain't never getting none, right? Like, this dude is just, at the time, you're just like, what is going on? Like, this guy just got his dick sucked in the back of a cop car as they're going to jail. Like, who let this happen? And then, anyways, like, so respect to the guy, low key, because the guy was sitting there like, yeah, that's my girl, like, that's my woman, and da 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 da. And almost on cue, as he's like gassing her up, she starts fighting like four of the other women in the other cell. And like the whole entire time, they're just going at it, like throwing hands, dude. They're just going at it. And all of us guys are just like, look at these women go at it. Like, look at them fight. So anyway, so like we're just like going through the night, man. So because of my situation, this is a little while ago, so I don't 100% know why the judge was there, but basically I got bonded out. So that is what it is. I ended up going to court, and I never should have been in jail in the first place based off of the situation, but I was made an example of. The judge did say I was like the Leave It to Beaver kid, so I guess that's pretty cool. Like, he said I looked innocent, so he was gonna, give it to me a little extra hard, so I learned my lesson. Yeah, that's the story about when I got arrested. I actually ran into the guy after the guy who got his PP sucked. I ran into him in the county courthouse. It didn't go good for him. But anyways, me and him like chopped it up a little bit, and he's like, yeah, I think I'm a little bit screwed. But, chopped it up, and did I miss him like decent? Character-wise, I don't know if they're decent human beings. Because, right, like they're in jail. So, to each his own on that. But personality-wise, dude, we're pretty cool. Had a good time. Watched a dude in leopard print onesie piss himself. Watched, like 5-6 women fight. Yeah, that was pretty cool. All right. Let me see. So I used to be like real into cars, right? Which y'all hopefully have seen the video of my M5. I used to be like a part of this group that would like street race in Mexico. You know what I'm saying? Obviously I don't anymore. But yeah, we'd have all the tech. We'd have all the stuff, right? My apologies, dude. I worked like 9-10 hours and it's almost 1 in the morning. But like I said, I wanted to bring y'all some form of content because all week I'd been telling myself that I wasn't going to post anything. And I decided to get out of my comfort zone, tell some stories, and maybe we'll do a couple more of these in moments where maybe I don't got a guest. Maybe we'll get some topics and I'll just Bill Burr them, Tim Dillon them. But anyways, so I used to be real into street racing, right? Well, there's this one's actually a pretty cool one, and I have some I would have to find them, and I know I have friends. So there's this event in Houston, right? And it's not just in Houston, but Houston's kind of like the Super Bowl of street racing, right? It's called TX2K. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, and if anybody knows what it is, and maybe I am mistaken, please correct me, because whatever. I believe it was started off as like a Supra, like a bunch of guys with Supras really started it because obviously there's like a gigantic following for Supras. And then it just got really absurd because like in Dallas, you have Underground Racing, and then you have Hennessy that's right there, next to Houston. You have Royal Purple Raceway, which, if I'm not mistaken, is in Sealy, Texas. And then you got a bunch of these very, very, very high performance shops that are in Texas, Oklahoma. You know what I'm saying? Like 2,000-3,000 horsepower cars. And I don't know if y'all have heard of the Texas Mile, but there's like a Ford GT that was going 300 miles an hour in XYZ, right? Well, so this is I'm trying to think of how to, because it's not just street racing, right? There's legal racing, like there's roll racing, there's drag racing, there's actual car shows, there's dynos, there's like every YouTubers, all of these people, shops, they're coming out with merch. It is like a whole ordeal, right? So like during the daytime, it's all of the legal shit, and then it got so big at night with the actual street racing that for a couple years they shut down the Katy Tollway for us to go and do it safe, right? Well, at the time I was in my M5 and I was fairly young, but you know what I'm saying? Like you think, I think my car was, it was like straight piped. It was loud. It was manual. I thought it was just the coolest thing ever. And I was like, oh, whatever. I can keep up. Like I knew, like 1320 video, like they do a really good job of representing TX2K. Like, so if y'all are curious about it, go look up like 1320 or type in TX2K. Any given year, there's just absurd cars. Well, the first year, you know what? Let me not go in like a chronological sense because they all kind of just went in with each other because it's such a blur because there's so many cars, there's so much to see, there's so many people. Well, so we're like going, right? Sorry, I'm not used to this much talking. Um, so let's just start off with like heading there, right? So when you're heading there, like we're coming from San Antonio, Texas. Well, we have like Nelson Performance, like we're one of the biggest cities in America. So we have a couple like Alpha GTRs, we have some Lamborghinis that are coming. Now they're not necessarily being driven, they're being trailered, but you see the trailers, you see the cars, you see Supras, you see GTRs, which is weird because you're like the regular GTRs, and by regular I mean like 800 wheel, because that's still slow. Like that's barely keeping up for like the type of thing I'm talking about. Um. So, anyways, you're just driving down I-10 going into Houston from San Antonio, and you just see all of these cars, and you just feel cool because you're all like in line. You're just trailing each other. You're having a good time. It's this momentous occasion, and you're just all driving. Well, then you finally get into Houston, and obviously, like you're a little bit tired or whatever, and you go straight to the hotel. Well, TX2K, they have sponsored hotels, right? So, like, they'll have hotels where in the evening, they'll be sponsored by whatever it is that these companies are going. Like, there's a bunch of companies that are sponsoring these stays and they're hosting these events. So, you might, like, example, the Omni Hotel. Well, they have a double level parking garage and an outdoor lot, right? So you pull in, and let's just say you have a room at the Omni. When I tell you there is cars everywhere, there's cars that you have seen on YouTube that make 1,500 horsepower, right? And they're just chilling there. There was a LSX Willie Willis Jeep, right? Just chilling. Like you just see sketchy vert. Like there's these cars that you would see, and you're looking at them, and you're like, oh my, what is going? Like there's 1,000 horsepower Chevy Silverados that are 4-door, and they literally, they're just chilling, and you're just like, bro, that truck is what? This is crazy. Then, not to mention, like you'll just be chilling up in the room, and all you hear is some chop, just blah 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 blah. They're barely able to run because the chop is so crazy. Well, so anyway, so like I would say that a lot of the I'm trying to think of how to word this. A lot of the appeal of the event is the street racing and car meetups, right? Because there is a lot of people that were meeting up that, let's just be 100% honest, cannot go toe to toe with a lot of the guys on the track. And it's not necessarily because they're that much slower. The setup is just different. Maybe they said, I'm specifically going to be doing this for a street pass. I'm set up specifically for a roll race. And let me remind you, the cars in the actual legitimate TX2K like track days, you need 4 digits to play. You need at least 1,000. And 1,000's probably getting you last place, right? Now, there were some vehicles that were like extremely tiny, extremely lightweight. Okay, cool. Like you could see some Fox bodies, and maybe they're 700-800 horsepower, and maybe they can keep up. But I didn't see that many win. I could be wrong. And if I am wrong, correct me. But the street racing aspect, when I tell you you're watching 2,000 horsepower cars, and that's like on the high side, but like 1,000 horsepower car is, you really can't wrap your mind around how fast that is, right? Like you're driving and you're trying to take a video, and I remember I was watching a 1,300 horsepower Lamborghini. Right? And it was all-wheel drive. And we just seen him like spitting flames. And we were like, oh shit, that's so cool. Like whatever. He started racing a GTR. And we couldn't even finish the video because as soon as they started, they were already out of frame. Like they were that far away. And the camera legitimately could not keep up with the rate that they're accelerating. Like it is bonkers. Well, so that's the long story around. We end up at the garage. It was like a secret link up of all of the biggest, baddest, fastest cars, right? And we were actually just driving around. Like we were a part of a group that was racing. We weren't racing because we're fucking slow. We got into a race with the DSM, right? So we were racing this old, y'all probably know it as Mitsubishi, but I think it was like an Eagle Talon or something like that. Well, anyways, it was all-wheel drive, and this thing, yeah, it was quick. Anyways, like the dude was cool. Raced like a Maserati. We did a couple stuff. So we're just driving around, and this guy, like the guy that was in the DSM, knew people that was inside of this little secret link up. And we had got there right before they shut the gates. And as soon as you pull in, so it's like this little alleyway, and you have cars kind of like Tokyo Drift style. Like how you have them just lined up in rows, and then there's just this bigger parking lot that is just kind of park wherever you can. And when I tell you every single car that's inside of this place, they are legit. Like everywhere you're looking, you're like, holy crap, dude, there's a Supra, there's a GTR, there's a Lamborghini, there's a Ford GT that's on a lift that has freaking gold in the engine bay. There's 1,000 horsepower trucks. The list goes on. The list goes on. It is freaking ridiculous. And everybody's just out having a good time. There's speakers, there's music, there's food. And then this guy has like a 3,000 horsepower GT, which if I ever become like, just super, super, super wealthy, fingers crossed, finger guns. If I ever become super wealthy, I want a Ford GT. That is the vehicle that I've always wanted. That car is like the pinnacle of it, right? It's like 3,000 horsepower, has a gold plated plenum, gold plated extra pieces. Then fucking next to it, he has like a 2,000 horsepower Gallardo, which is a Lamborghini. And then he has an 1,800 horsepower GTR. And you're just sitting in here and he's just got all of these different parts and pieces and stuff like that. And it's literally this dude who's just uber rich that just has a shop just to have a shop to hold his cars, which I guess is pretty dope. But we're just in this fucking meeting and we're just like, how did we end up here? Because they ended up shutting the gates. We were like one of the last people that came in. Like there was like 2 or 3 cars after us and then they just shut it down. Well, turns out they all had there was CB radios, and all that meetup was so the fastest cars in Texas could dip out from that one spot, go to a secret location, and go do their races. Well, all night you're just whoom, whoom, and you're seeing these cars go crazy, and then they'd just come right back in, and you would hear them. They'd be talking to their tuner guy, and they'd be like, "Hey man, I'm just running a little bit lean, and da 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 da. Hey, a little bit of a misfire, and when I did this, and so on and so forth." And you would just see them doing test hits, boom, 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 trying to get everything set up. And it's so wild, because like me being a car fan, like I had a 400 horsepower M5, and I'm like, this is a pretty quick car to me. These cars are 2,000 horsepower. Like, I don't even know what it would feel like to be in something like that. Like, that's so crazy to me. But we ended up in this like secret link up, and I'm just like face to face with all of these cars that I've seen on YouTube, and some of them I haven't. Dude, some of them were on Instagram being built. Like, AMS is sitting there talking about Alpha, whatever it is. Like, I think they're heavy hitting cars. They didn't street race that much because they were legit and you could actually track day the cars. I think that's probably part of it. Like, and there's no use. And I do think that Katie, Houston, Sealy, so on and so forth, like that whole area, I think they started saying if you're going to street race, we're going to crush your car. And then there's a lot of guys that would just be like, well, I have $300,000 into this car. Why? I don't want to destroy it. But then you would also see guys that would build cars specifically for TX2K, then get rid of it. Right? So, like, there was always a market of these high-end sports cars or supercars that are crazy modified that would go up for sale right after TX2K, because these rich people would go buy like a Gallardo or a Huracan or an Aventador or a 458, Ferrari, or an Audi R8 or shit, yeah, like a Supra and these other cars, and they would go build them to ridiculous specifications and then say, all right, TX2K's done, on to the next. So then you would have this like twin-turboed R8, twin-turboed Huracan, twin-turbo Gallardo, whatever, and they would just be for a decent market. Well, you're just chilling there, right? And then there was like one of these nights where we pull up, and there's a first-generation Humvee, right? And he's pulling this enclosed trailer. His girl gets out. She's in short shorts, a fucking crop top, obvious tit job, right? She looked like she should be showing off the car. She unstraps it, does everything, and she pulls out, like, when I tell you she lifts up the flap to this car trailer, And she's there with the VP Racing canister, just filling it up with race gas. And then she backs the car out of the trailer, and she's in like these gigantic heels. She's in, like I said, these ass shorts. Things are hanging out. Big old titties just poking out. Just all doesn't look like she would be the one driving that car. And like, not to assume anything, it was just a weird situation because we just didn't. It caught us off guard because this guy is driving this Humvee, and then this girl just gets out and she's just hopping out to hop in to a twin turbo Lamborghini that she just filled up, and she's not wearing it. Like, I don't even know how you would drive a car like that in the heels she was wearing. Like, anyways, I digress. But yeah, there was a bunch of crazy stuff that happened, like with TX2K. Some of it I don't want to get into because there was some sad things that kind of happened. Just because they're, a part of the car community, there is a lot of like, there's a reason why people get into building stuff, whether it's creativity, whether it's something they did with their dad, their mom, their siblings. That's something that they found. Maybe it's the only thing that they ever felt connected to. Just whatever it may be. There's different ways. But there was some sad stuff that did happen at TX2K that became well known. And I'll leave it at that. Like, yeah, that I really don't want to speak too much on that. But yeah, I have so many stories. TX2K was a great one, and I just to get one tiny little sub story about TX2K. So the very first year that we're at TX2K, like I said, I was in my M5, and we're all having a good time. And there was a E90 M3, right? And I was like, oh, well, that's around my horsepower. Like, I could probably keep up with that, right? Then I wasn't far off. Like, he did beat me a little bit, as he should. Newer M3. Plus, I had 4 people in the car with me. Like, we were loaded down. Like, I was like 5,000 pounds. And anyway, so, like, we're just cruising. And, like, dude, we're cruising like 80, 90 miles an hour. And out of nowhere, dude, like, just 3 or 4 diesel pickup trucks with barrels of race gas fly by us. Like, we're not going slow. And they just, like, fly by us. And one of my buddies, he has, maybe one day I'll get him on here. He literally has a video, and he's like, there goes the diesels. Because, dude, they are just flying by us. And you're like, that's a fucking tent. Dude, like dualies. Big lifted dually pickup trucks flying by us. And you're like, bro, even the trucks are faster than me. Like, even, what is going on here, bro? What is happening? But, yeah, I feel like those are some interesting stories, and I have more. And if y'all enjoy this, or if y'all have memories with me, remind me, because, dude, I forget. Like, I really do forget. Let me know. Remind me of some stuff, because I kind of, like, even forgot about some of these stories, and it kind of caught me off guard, because, like, now I'm kind of a homebody. I really don't go out too much. I really don't do too much. I kind of just keep to myself and just hang out. But sometimes I forget. Like, I used to go crazy. Like, not really go crazy. I used to do a lot of stuff. Like, there was a time in my life where I would go out almost every single night. Now, a lot of that was just to get away from stuff, like, internally. And a lot of it was just to stay busy, and the other parts was you're young and you just want to get out and do stuff. You got energy. Maybe you don't work till late the next day. Just whatever. But yeah, I got a lot of stories. Dude, there was a story where one of my buddies really liked this girl that lived in a town like 30 miles away. And we go out to this pasture and he had a roof rack and I'm just hanging on as he's like flooring it through this thing. And dude, I almost fucking take a tumble from like 30 miles an hour off this Ford Explorer. That's just a little bit of it. Like I said, I got a lot of stories. If y'all enjoy this is something I'll try to do more often because I am trying to learn how to speak, like how to do this better, how to maybe incorporate something where I do it alone, because I also maybe want to talk about topics, political topics, things that are going on in the world, maybe some drama shit that's going on that there's a lot of stuff in this world that doesn't really make sense that maybe I could figure out a way to monologue it. I don't really know, but I enjoy talking to people. So, I really think at this point we're just trying to find out what works, what doesn't, what y'all enjoy, what I enjoy, and yeah. Well, anyways, yeah. I mean that's almost an hour, so it's almost a full episode. So, if y'all made it this far, I appreciate y'all listening. Hopefully, I kept y'all. I hope it caught. I hope it got y'all's attention. I hope we are able to. Yeah, I don't. I hope we were able to let y'all in a little bit and learn a little bit more about me and just that I'm not. I don't know what I'm trying to say right now. This is weird. I hope you enjoyed it. And shout out to VinWiki, for giving me the idea because their channel is literally around telling stories and that is their whole entire platform. Anyways, thank y'all. If y'all haven't, please like and subscribe. I do want to shout out everybody who feels like they're drowning. Everybody feels like they're going through stuff. Maybe you got some bad news. Maybe work is overwhelming. Maybe work has been slow and expenses are starting to pile up and you're just trying to figure out a way, you're just trying to find a way to make it, whatever. Shout out to everybody, man. Y'all are good. Y'all are going to make it. Just pray on it, please. And give yourself some credit. I think you're going to find that y'all are pretty resilient. And like I said, I was fully ready to just make a post on, on our sites and say, hey, we're going to take a week off. Maybe I was going to do like a quick little video. And, yeah. But that ain't what the plan, like, I had this urge. I got off work tonight. I was in a great mood. I was ready to talk. I had this idea, and here we are. But shout out to everybody going through stuff. You may feel like what you're going through isn't that big, so you don't want to talk about it. But if it's affecting you, it's affecting you. We got some. Let me just speak for myself. We're going through some personal battles over here, and what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? We're gonna get through it, and we're gonna get through it better. We're gonna end up better, being better people than we were, more resilient people than we were, and we're gonna be able to look back on these times where we're going through these hardships, and we're gonna say, nah, it wasn't that bad. You feel me? And because I want to do this at the end of the video to see who actually pays attention, who watches it, so on and so forth. If y'all are interested in coming on the pod, contact me on Instagram or Facebook. Or if you have my cell phone or my Snapchat or whatever it is, message me, right? and we'll have an open dialogue, and we'll find out what it takes. Currently, we do this out of my home, so I'm also very picky on who I'm going to allow know where I live, because there's some crazy people. Yeah, hit me up. We're always looking for stuff. Scheduling is a little bit difficult, but where there's a will, there's a way. Okay? Anyways, thank y'all so much for all of y'all's support. I really, really, really appreciate whether it's just y'all clicking the show support or whatever, man. Honestly, anything y'all are helping us do, anything y'all are helping us accomplish, I'm speechless on it. I really do appreciate it. And as stressful as this thing might be, it's just that much more enjoyable because of all the support. So, for real, y'all, thank y'all.